Alright folks, there's no better place to start our short Kilmainham tour than the place just behind me. That is Kilmainham Jail, and it's a pivotal place for Irish history. Many of the heroes of this nation were incarcerated, imprisoned there, and way too many were also executed, shot and hanged inside those grey walls. Alright, we're standing just in front of the actual jail, and this must have been one of the main entrances at the time when it was built. It was actually built in a late 1700s, and it was in use up to the 1920s. But what makes it very special is obviously the fact, just gonna squeeze in the camera here, that all, or 14, not all of them, but 14 of the 16 major Easter Rising leaders were executed here. Actually, if you look closely, you see that open door that leads to the Stonebreakers' yard, and that is the place where the Easter Rising leaders, Piers and the others, Connolly, sitting down badly wounded in his chair, was shot just behind that grey wall there. On the other side of the road that leads to Inchicore, we have a monument commemorating the 14 Easter Rising leaders here. Interestingly, you kind of see these little holes that I think represent bullet holes. I'm not sure whether they are exactly in the place where they hit the leaders, but yeah, they're all in different places anyways. And in the center you have the Proclamation of Independence in a metal plate. Very touching and moving monument. And there you go, there is the actual jail. Acts as an excellent museum. If you ever come around here, make sure that you visit one of these national monuments of Ireland. The whole complex, the museum, and there you have the actual jail building. Very moving and interesting place to visit. I would say one of these sacred Irish sites. And now we continue our tour into another very interesting site, and you will see the gate there. The gate has not originally been built there, but it's been moved from another location to this place, but it suits well the place where we are soon about to enter. If you look to the other side of the road there, you'll see a very famous pub, the Patriots Inn. All right, it's a bit of a walk to the actual Royal Hospital, which is the Modern Arts Museum. But it's an interesting walk because on the left-hand side is the so-called Bully's Acre, which is one of the oldest cemeteries here in Dublin. Here's another cemetery, or actually it's part of the same cemetery but different people. That was reserved for the military officials and the personnel who were located at this site at some point of time. But what makes this a very, very interesting cemetery is partly explained here. We cannot get in there, but you can have a kind of a sneak peek here. Maybe from the other side of the fence we get a better view of the actual cemetery. But as said, this has been a historical place since the eons of time. I'm going to tell a little story soon, what is partly mythological, or it has been said that it's mythological. It could be true as well. But what they know for sure, after the Battle of Clontarf, which is one of the decisive battles here in Dublin between the Vikings and the Irish, a lot of people obviously died from both sides, and Brian Boru's side said to be the winner, but most of the sort of prominent people from that side, including Brian Boru himself, died in the battle. It has been said that at least his son, one of his sons, was buried at this site in, if I remember correctly, the battle was 1014, around that time. And not only those, but also many of the Irish patriots from different rebellions over the centuries have been buried here, from the 1798, 1803, and some others as well. Because this has been a site of the old Christian priory or monastic site in the beginning, because you can easily see that if you look to the left, you can actually see the Wellington monument there, an island bridge, but River Liffey is down there somewhere behind those fairly tall buildings there. So, but obviously a couple of hundred years ago this was a kind of a meadow, high place, a prominent place on the banks of River Liffey. River Liffey was much wider. Earlier days, 1,000 years ago, when the Vikings arrived, it was way wider and run quite differently. There's another smaller river connecting itself to Liffey, which runs not too far on that side there on the right, River Comock. And the puddle, the Black Bull, where Dublin gets its name, is not too far. Well, it's by the Dublin Gardens and Castle. It's quite a way there, but yes, so it's not visible anymore. So there's a lot of changes over the centuries in the terrain. But now we're approaching the actual Royal Hospital, which is today a museum of modern arts. We're actually walking on the high ridge that connects us to the High Street and the Christ Church, a little bit further in the east. By the way, here just showing some of the modern art that is visible here in the gardens. Yes, so this ridge is actually a very significant place in Irish history, because around year 100, maybe 150, two of the High Kings, or not the High King itself, but kings that were at the time in a position that they could actually divide Ireland into two halves. Did it here. The King of Munster, or Munster, King Mhaighneann, and the king of the northern parts, Connacht, I think his name is Connacht, and they met here, and they decided that each one of the kings will have their halves of their island of Ireland, and the southern half went obviously to Mhaighneann, the King of Munster, which we know this is probably a real person. It's a bit unclear who was the one who got the northern part. Maybe some of the viewers know that better and they can put their comments on the comment section there. Anyway, so very important, significant place in that sense. So Ireland was divided into two halves by two Irish kings. Well, that's what it is. Let's see what happens here. We are entering actually the grounds of the museum now. This is the building. I remember it's from the late 1600s, and now obviously in a very different use what it was built originally for. So Irish Museum of Modern Arts. Let's go first in. Alright folks, we just arrived to the east side of the building, and as said, this is modern arts. There is all types of statues and presentations and whatnot. There is a video screen of some sort of audiovisual presentation. But what I find fascinating and interesting here is not so much of the modern art here, which you can see these metal structures, these kind of balls and things. Well, some people might find them very artistic. I'm a little bit more old-fashioned, maybe traditionalist, and what we find here is a beautiful garden styled on the French kind of way. I think the Versailles and these specific French garden styles from the 1700s, 1600s were the ones that they tried to imitate here. There's the bell tower and a church. I think it was a Protestant church at the time for the veterans and for the retired soldiers that were treated or lived in this area. And this is the so-called Master's Garden. So the structure of this garden is based on the 17th, maybe 18th century formalia, and It's really beautifully maintained, as you can see. There's some interesting statues here as well. I'm going to show you one of them. At the end of this trail you can see a building, stone building, which is fairly old as well, a couple of 100 years, and that was the master's tea house. That's where they had their social events every now and then. This is a really kind of oasis in the middle of city. We only stone throw away from the Houston station, and we have huge modern buildings all around, but coming here is really something special. And here I find the most intriguing statue of this place. Look at this lady. This is not modern art. This has a deeper meaning than those modern art pieces that we've seen on the way. There is a bit of a mystery surrounding this statue. Actually, I have to find out a little bit more about it. There is no explanation here what it is, but I'll try to find. If you know something, just you can add that into the comment section. Could it be Medusa? I don't know. Here you have another statue. I have a feeling that these ladies are something to do with Greek mythology. I like the way she holds her right hand. There's something with those fingers. Okay, one of the fingers is severed, but as if she's about to demonstrate something with her hand. And what might that be? Maybe I'll find out. Anyway, very beautiful gesture. Okay, there you go. There are the new modern buildings around this area. This is what happens to our culture, people, and to the whole Western civilization. You have these glimpses of antiquity, kind of hints what you have to find surrounded by the modernity that basically drowns everything underneath. These glass cubicles that are not really telling us anything. They are not hiding a message or a mystery. They're just lifeless structures, as is our culture. We're just a dying breed. I think Oswald Spengler foresaw the future very clearly, what was happening with urbanization and with the other symptoms that the Western civilization has today. It's a very bleak situation that we are in, and it's always nice to see children. There's always a glimpse of hope there.